Hi, and welcome to Long Lost Friends. I'm Andrea Goyan.
And I'm Elizabeth Eve King. Today, we are so delighted to be talking to Marie LeClaire. Marie is the author of 6 novels and multiple short stories. Her most recent novel, The Mohegan's Last Flamethrower, a mystical mystery of fate, bloodline, and community, is the third in the Last Yard Sale series. Marie credits her time in her Masters of Arts program, where she wrote endless papers and a 70-page thesis honing her writing skills. She calls her style mystical realism and says, I like to think there's a little bit of magic out there if we look closely enough. She looks for the little bit flashes of magic in her own life and says, it could be just a strange coincidence or magic. Marie is also an editor at MetaStellar magazine. Welcome, Marie.
Welcome, Marie.
Thank you.
Before we get into chatting with you, do you have any pets to show us?
Well, I don't have pets because I don't have a lifestyle that really supports conscientious pet ownership. But I do like to garden. And in particular, I go over actually to my mother's house. I keep an eye on my elderly mother. And so I garden. And so this year, the hydrangeas are absolutely beautiful around here. All over the region here in Massachusetts. And so I just thought I would offer you a little bit of that enjoyment. These came from my mother's yard.
They are gorgeous.
Yeah.
I love hydrangeas.
Yeah.
And I just can't grow them really in where I am in California. So
yeah, they're quite beautiful everywhere this year. They made the news, big hubbub. Yeah, big deal.
wow.
And I think they're attributing excessive rain. So excessive spring rains.
Wow, that's gorgeous.
Well, we wanted to get a chance to talk with you about your newest novel today and how it works with the other two. And is this the last one in the series? Throw a few questions at you at once. So.
Well, it's the most recent one in the series. I don't know if it's the last one or not. They're not set up in that kind of a way. So each novel is independent. It just has the same characters. So I kind of think of it, if people are familiar with Sue Grafton's Alphabet series, right? You can read any one of those, really, and get a sense of who people are. And so that's kind of the way my novels are set up. So is it the last? I don't know.
Is it, I've given it some of a read, and I wonder, do you consider it a cozy mystery, or is it not a cozy mystery? I know there's rules for that. So
yeah, so I say that it's a cozy mystery. So for me, my understanding of the definition is that cozy means that there's no graphic sex or violence in it.
right.
And so, yes, so mine would be cozy. Yes.
And mystical and magical.
And mystical and magical too. So it's a trifecta.
Lovely. Lovely. When did this novel come out?
It was officially available on Amazon May 4th.
My birthday.
Oh, see, it was
my birthday novel.
A magical day.
That's so great. So you self-published it, and you self-published your other novels. Can you tell us about that process at all? I know there are a lot of wannabe self-publishers out there.
Yes. So the first novel I self-published was The Last Yard Sale, the first in this particular series in 2018. And the first round was challenging. So I'll just say it was challenging. It was a lot of back and forth. It was hard to format and edit, to upload into Amazon, even though Amazon makes it as easy as they can. It still can be a little tedious. And so, yes. So, but now that I've got a couple of them up, it goes a little smoother, but it's still a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, there's a learning curve, right?
It's a learning curve, and you just have to be persistent. You can't get discouraged because everything is there. Everything you need to know is there. It's just not always easily accessible. So I'll just say for those out there, just be persistent.
And sorry, but do you use
Go
any
ahead.
programs like, what's that called? Parchment? No, it's something
Oh,
like
Like
parchment.
Scrivener or something? No, I write in Word.
When
I
you,
wrote-
I
There's
think
a
you mean when you
formatting, yeah, there's a
formatting,
formatting
putting it
program.
together.
Amazon tells you how to format it in Word. And so I format in Word and upload, and Amazon converts it to its proprietary Mobi software.
Are your books available in print on demand or only on Kindle?
On print on demand, print on
Oh,
demand.
nice.
And they're available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Kobo, and Google Play Books.
So I know we don't want to get too much in the nitty gritty here because it's so much to learn, but you uploaded it to Amazon, but to do the other ones, you need to use another, you're like a program, I think is what you're saying.
No, you don't, because
Platform?
each of those sites will upload it into, the other program generally used is EPUB. And each one of those websites will load it up, convert it into whatever they want it to be. So that's where it gets a little tricky, because sometimes your formatting doesn't convert the way you want it to. So you got to go back in, and it's a little bit of back and forth to try and make your book look like you want it once it's been converted. So that's that's what I mean when I say don't get discouraged, just keep changing it, keep loading it up.
Now, you're an editor at MetaStellar. Do you edit your books, or do you have an outside editor because, you're so close?
I edit my own. It is a little challenge. That is also a little challenging. I edit my own, and I also have beta readers that do a little editing, and my mother always reads my books. And so she does a little bit of editing. And so it gets done. I'll just say it gets done. It gets done. And I use most recently I've used one of the AIs to edit this last one. I don't even
like
remember.
Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid.
I think it might be Pro Writing Aid.
Yeah, they're both helpful for that. It seems like those novels would be good book club novels.
I think they would be.
Have you seen, have you tried that to get any of that traction? I have no idea how people do that.
I don't know how people do that either, although I know somebody told me that there was a lower click box on Amazon that says, if you want to, these are suggested for book clubs or something. But I think they all have a little bit of something worth discussing, and so I think in that way they generate, conversations about family, conversations about politics, conversations about social issues. So they all have that go on as well. So I think
all the danger conversations.
yeah, right,
Yeah, I
right.
was gonna say conversations about politics might not be so good.
No, light politics, light politics.
So do you, do you remember what made you think of this idea? Because it's a really fun idea that there's magical objects and things that happen at a yard sale. So
the last yard sale I wrote came out of a conversation that I had with some friends of mine, and we are all women of a certain age, and downsizing and life changing and this and that. And so we had this silly conversation about, wouldn't it be fun if we could put all our issues out on the lawn?
love that.
And sell those along with everything else. So
That's fun.
and so it just and so after that conversation, the story just started writing itself in my head, really. There's really no other way to describe it. And so I just started writing it down and sending it up in pieces to a couple of friends of mine, just in emails, and said, hey, I'm writing this story. What do you think? And they, they kept saying, oh, this is good. This is good. And then I took a little break from writing, a little break, like a couple of weeks, I don't know, where they didn't get any emails from me. And I started getting emails going, hey, where's the rest
Where's
of
the next chapter? That's a good sign.
That's right. That's right.
But I just want to interject here for people watching that there will be links below to connect you onto Amazon to her novels, so you can check them out yourself and see if it's something you want to purchase.
Yes.
So,
Yes, absolutely.
is there anything else about this novel that's special to you? And you think, I mean, that's a broad question, I know, but I know you want to chat about your novel, so.
Yes, yes, yes. So I think that I've always been kind of a history buff. I don't write historical novels, but I've always been just a little curious, and especially about local history here in Massachusetts. And it's the early history with Native Americans is a little bit different than the later history, I'll just say. And there actually was a lot of collaboration at first, which then of course went bad. But there's little pockets of things all over New England, from names of towns to battle sites to there's one reservation just down the road from me, a Native American reservation, the Nipmuc reservation. So, but they're kind of hidden history. It's kind of Massachusetts hidden history, and so I just felt like I wanted to shine a little light on that.
That's cool. You have, is it John Hancock? Am I remember correctly?
Yes,
In
yes,
this particular novel. So that's
yes,
very fun.
yes.
Very fun.
Yes, yes. So as with all of my novels, things just pop into my head while I'm writing, and they just have a life of their own. This novel in particular did not even end where I thought it would end. I got like 3/4 of the way in and went, "Oh wow, that's interesting."
So as Elizabeth and I like to say for long lost friends, are you a plotter or a panther?
I am a 100% pantser. I am a channeler. I would even say I am a channeler. I just
Okay.
get this information and it just comes right out. So yeah, no, but I do sometimes know where it ends. I know the very end and I know the very beginning. Um, uh,
Always good.
but
Always good.
in this case, though, the end was just so totally off the rails from where I was going. Yeah.
That's always a fun surprise, especially if you can still make it work.
I know that. Well, that was it. Funny because I was actually thinking I didn't know how to make the other ending work as I'm writing. I kept trying to figure out how I could make a left turn and get back to where I wanted to be. And so, yeah, so the new ending was a delightful surprise. I'm like, oh, I'll just do this.
Now, do you do a lot of research, for instance, on John Hancock or is that more like, you just bring them in and.
I did a little bit, and I follow an approach that I learned in college, that write the paper, then look up the details, because otherwise you get bogged down in the research, right? And so I decided on John Hancock. I went in and did a little research as I was writing the book, just enough that I needed to write the book.
How did you decide on him?
He just popped into my head, honestly. He literally just popped into my head.
I don't know about
it's her magic. It's her magic.
Oh, it's the magic, because I'm like, all I know about him is he's a large signature. That's
right.
That's
Well,
it.
he was actually right, and that's all I kind of knew. And although he has a real solid presence here in Massachusetts, but that's really all I knew about him. And as I was reading, turns out he was kind of a large-ish person anyway, not necessarily stature, I don't really know, but he was very flamboyant. He inherited his money from his uncle, and he liked his money, and he made an absolute fortune in the shipping trades. And by some reports, he might have perhaps been a rum runner, or smuggling sugar. So it depends on what you read. So he was actually quite a character. But in real life, he had 2 children who both died before adulthood. And so in my story, I do take liberty there, and I say he had an illegitimate child. So I'm waiting for the historians to be knocking on my door.
Yell at you.
Or else the illegitimate child's descendants will be knocking on your door saying,
Right.
how did you know? Magic.
Magic. Magic.
That is true.
That would be
Um,
cool if you could write like that and then the legitimate, it would appear basically after you've written it.
Oops, you know,
for magic.
there's a story in my head that has a magical planner in it.
That's
Um, I know we talked a little bit beforehand, and we wanted to ask you a little bit about your novel, The Old Wool Factory, the one that is translated into Dutch, right?
Yes.
And which looked like German to me on the page, but it's Dutch. I should know. My sister-in-law is Dutch, but I don't know a word of it. You see, yeah, well, because it sounded like a really interesting concept, and tell
and
us
a
about that.
fascinating story, yeah.
Yes. So the story is about a young woman whose mother dies unexpectedly, and she's tasked with taking care of her grandmother. And while she is taking care of her grandmother teaches her how to crochet. So, but the family tradition of crocheting is a little unusual. So
Magic.
sparks coming off the crochet hook. And so, but the idea for the story came about during the lockdown, during the pandemic shutdown. And there was a big movement online on Facebook anyway, for what are called crochet alongs. And they are where people all over the world crochet the same pattern at the same time and correspond and post their work and stuff on Facebook. And so I thought, well, wow, wouldn't it be great if these crochet patterns went along with a story, went along with a novel? So I reached out online to a few different crochet designers, and I said, hey, is anybody interested in collaborating? And so Debbie Hemsley, who was at the time in South Africa, she has now moved to the UK, said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So while I was writing my story, she was designing stitches that reflect what's going on in the story.
Wow.
Oh, that is so cool.
It
So
is.
do you crochet at all?
I do crochet, and so if I'd have thought about it, I could have had my Afghan here, and I don't know if we have a minute. I can go grab it. But there's so she created this whole I love to crochet. It's my favorite pastime, and so she created stitches that represent the story. So there's a puppy in the story. And so there's a row of stitches that are called puppy paws that look like puppy paws that go around.
Aw.
It's really sweet. And there's the wool factory, of course. And so there's a whole section of brick like stitches. So that sort of thing. It was really, really fun. And so we gave away the book a chapter at a time or a section at a time. And we gave away the pattern a section at a time over 8 weeks. And then after the 8 weeks, the pattern and the book both went on sale. But prior to that, for the sake of the crochet along, they were available to anybody who signed up for it. And so,
Do you, oh, go ahead.
no, go ask me.
Did you create any kind of thing on your website for people to upload their crochets, the things
Yes,
that they crochet?
There's a Facebook group that's still up called The Old Wool Factory. And so, yes, so everybody,
cool.
as they did each section and all kinds of different color schemes and, people, a lot of people kept up with the week at a time thing, but not everybody did. It wasn't necessarily, a requirement. And so
Right.
there are still people that go on and post every once in a while that have read the book and bought. So you have to buy the pattern separate. It's not in the book. But there are still people that go and post their work from time to time.
That's fun. What a fun engagement kind of process, and sort of like,
Yeah.
having an artologue. Very fun.
Yeah.
That is, yeah, it's really a cool idea. But so you mentioned this woman, this crocheter. Is she the one that translated it, or was it?
No. So at one point we had 2,500 people on the Facebook page.
Wow.
And a lot of the crocheters are Dutch or oddly, A lot of them were, although we had, I think at one point I counted like 18 countries.
Wow, that's wild.
It
Amazing.
was really insane the way it took off. It was
Yeah.
so much fun. But anyway, so a couple of the Dutch crocheters said, hey, they're just regular people. They said, hey, we'd like to give it a try. We'd like to try and translate. I said, hey, sure. Right. And so there were 3 of them that all kind of checked each other's work. So I have no way of knowing, of course.
Right.
But they actually held each other accountable in that way to try and be as close, as close as they could to the intention of the story. And so there ended up being a Dutch version of the ebook
Wow.
and the
That is
and the print book. Yeah, yeah.
That is so cool. That is so cool. So, what is it that I mean, I know you edit for MetaStellar and you would think I'd know better, but I know you are the editor for reprints. Is that
Right.
correct still?
Right.
And is there any other editing? Do you ever edit on those, or do you just reprint them because they've already been printed?
Yeah, so the reprints that I get usually, I'm editing for appropriateness more than actual line editing. So is it a speculative fiction story? So some things I get are not necessarily speculative. Are there is there any offensive material in the story? Are there any copyright issues? So we have a conversation at the moment going on about one of our stories that has a poem embedded in it. That has, so we look at those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know, right?
What? Yeah.
So
Songs, poems, things like that.
yeah, song titles,
You can use song titles, but
you can,
Well, isn't there a certain number of lines or something you
Nope.
can use? I thought there
Nope.
was. I thought you could use.
No,
You can use song
Actually,
titles
yeah,
because
you
they
can't
can't.
copyright, because you actually can't
Right.
copyright a title.
So you can
Right,
say,
but
you
I
can
thought
say,
you could use if it was like 2 lines or something you could
nope.
use. But if you quote and attribute, you can,
Yes,
right?
and it
So
depends, yeah, ultimately it depends on your intention. If you attribute,
depends.
if you're writing a story and your character loves Bob Dylan and he's whistling a Bob Dylan tune, I mean, you can sort of get away with that, but really, you can't just
You can't use lyrics.
you can't just put
I
it.
mean, you would have to run it by an attorney because they're so, and I will tell you that the what is the American, what is the I want to I can't think of the name of the organization that takes care of the literature or the music. I can't think of it, but I mean, they will do things like when I had a Pilates studio, I had them come in at one point and tell me to cease and desist playing the radio because I was using music without paying for it. So, I mean,
Yeah.
they're pretty finicky. So they will, if they, I mean, it's not worth taking the risk. Is
Right.
all it comes down to,
Crazy.
without permission. You can get permission or pay for permission, but most of us can't afford to do that. So,
Right. Well, right. And how important is it to any story?
occasionally you have a story that's really
Yeah,
important, but
yeah,
then I guess
yeah.
the question is, do you write that story or
Not. Right.
I have a
because it's
couple of stories where the story's all about that. I mean, but it's quoted and it says who it is.
It depends. Yeah, I mean, if it's quoted, I mean, it's different to quote it and say who it is. And you'd have to ask a lawyer versus have someone, and I'm not going to do it here because we could get in trouble, but singing a song and using the words as the characters walking along singing the Bob Dylan song. If you have them voice it or say it, you can't do it.
It has to do with not making money off of other people's creations.
They're really picky about that.
Yeah. So the answer to your question is that is what I do for MetaStellar. And then I format and set up. And so we offer, because we don't pay for, well, not because we don't pay for reprints, but what we offer is some links and every author gets their own author page with links to whatever social media they want. If they are a published author, we link to their Amazon or any other account that they want us to link to. And we do internal links within the page. So it just gives an author, especially a new author, a little bit more airplay than they might normally get. A little bit more visibility in the algorithms.
And they are always open, right? The reprints are always open.
You can submit a reprint at any time.
So submit your
I
reprints.
know,
And
yes, I love reading them. It's like
what
an
is the
excuse.
upper limit? What is the word count limit?
So the
reprints.
word count for reprints is 7,500 words, and we
Wow.
also do excerpts. And so if you have a novel out there, somebody has a novel, a spec-fic novel, you can send me the first couple chapters.
Lovely.
Yeah, and we'll
lovely.
link that all up as well. So that's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Terrific.
cool. That's very cool.
And just for the record, our original fiction we do pay for, and we open twice a year for original flash fiction, which we count anything 1,200 words or less. And the next open window will be in October.
Right. October, March, correct?
October and March.
Yeah, so pretty regularly. So
Yes.
okay,
And
people's
once
looking
a
at.
year, you put out an anthology too, right? The best of.
Yes, the best of, and we have another one coming out here hopefully soon. It's one of those projects that just we're all volunteer force, right? Obviously, as you people know, but MetaStellar is an all volunteer force, and so we get things done when we can get things done. But yes, we have the best of MetaStellar Year 3 coming out. Which is just a collection of all of the greatest of the great stories that we've published in the past year. So yeah, so we have 2 volumes out now.
And this is reprints as well as originals, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So that's great.
Right.
Yeah.
And then for covers, your covers of your novels, what do you do for that? Do you create your own?
Covers is tough. So prior to all the AI stuff that's come out, I was using EPUB, what was it? No, self-pub book covers, where you can go on and actually purchase a piece of art for your book cover. And so once you purchase it, it comes off the shelf, right? So you won't see your particular image anywhere else. So I was using those, and then I used Microsoft Publisher, to just do all the fonts and shading and back cover and this and that. So I kind of do everything myself. I'm a little bit of a one-stop shopping
Awesome
kind of girl. So
awesome.
yeah, and so I've gotten a little bit more creative with Firefly, Adobe Firefly. I redid the covers for the series, the yard sale series, and one of my other books I redid the cover for 1,000 Buddhas, but who's counting, has a new cover.
I love that title. That's a great title.
Yeah. It's a lovely, again, one of those mystical mysteries about the last Buddhas. And so there's a Buddhist tradition, this part's true, that after 1,000 Buddhas have been born, humanity will evolve into whatever's next, into the next age. But we're only, depending on who you talk to, we're like somewhere around number 4.
Really? 4?
Yeah, well, those Hindus thought big.
I was going to say, you only have to look around and think, wow, we're nowhere near getting.
Yeah, we're nowhere near that.
All of it.
But who were the Buddhas? Who were they?
Well,
Buddha.
So it again, that's sort of up for debate. So it depends on who you talk to. But I took a liberty with that, and I said we're actually at 996.
But is it in the future?
No, it's present day. It's present day. But I explain why we have missed all the other Buddhas, because of our narrow definition of who can be a Buddha. And so my story posits that if one of these Buddhas does not live long enough to be enlightened, then humanity will go extinct. And so for sort of our unsuspecting heroes go out into the world to try and find these 4 Buddhas. So that's the story.
Wow,
Oh,
great
that's
idea.
very,
idea.
yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that's interesting too. I hadn't thought, I thought you achieved Buddhahood, sort of, not that you were born and then you got.
Well, right. So you're born. You're born with the ability to be enlightened, I suppose, in a sense. You're identified as the next Buddha, but you're not necessarily enlightened until you put the effort into it,
But
right?
not
So,
everybody can become enlightened then? I thought every.
well, theoretically, everybody can, theoretically. But none of us ever do. And I think also, but, right, and I think theoretically, one of the challenges of enlightened beings is to remain in your body. So when we get enlightened, when the average Joe gets enlightened, they leave their body. They're gone. They're now moving on. And so the specialness of identified Buddhas or in other kinds of saints, you might say, is that they have the ability to stay in this world and still understand all of the other realms that are going on.
Wow.
Hmm.
4 Buddha, I want to know who the 4 were.
You'll have to look them up.
Yeah.
Tell me who the 4 were, but are people in agreement?
I didn't do that much. I didn't do that much research. Well, so some people will say that the original Buddha had students that then became Buddhas within their own right. And some people will say, no, that never happened. Or, so I'm just going to say there's, a little bit of conversation that always goes on around that particular thing.
Well, what was you're making me think of what in theory and practice, it's the same, but in practice and theory and practice is different.
Yes. Yeah, sort of. Yeah. So yeah, so the story itself, though, surprisingly maybe doesn't get that far into Buddhism. It's not really about Buddhism. It's about everyday people that are going out. One story takes place in Chicago. One story takes place in Okinawa. And so they're out in the world, in this world, and they're looking for these Buddhas, these children Buddhas.
When you say one story, you mean one thread of the novel?
One thread of the story. So
One story. Yeah, gotcha.
people.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 people.
Just wanted to make sure it wasn't a collection and I was missing something.
No. It's all in the same story, all in the same novel.
Okay. Great.
And do you have any short story collections out?
Not that are all mine, but I did a really fun collaborative recently with 7 other authors. And we all write in different genres. Mostly we write in different genres. So we did an anthology called Tales from Shelf 804. And in this book, we all write stories using the same story prompt, using the same lines. Part of the task, part of the task was that you had to put this line of text in exactly the way it is, or almost exactly the way it is into your story. And so we ended up with 8 stories, all in different genres, all different imaginations, all different variations. So we had a couple of romance stories, a couple of just literature, present day, horror, sci-fi, fantasy. We had it all. And so it was really fun. And we had 4 prompts. And so you end up with 32 stories.
Fun.
Yeah, it was great. It's great. It's great fun.
And now can they be anywhere, the lines anywhere in the story?
Correct. So you can start with it, you can plug it in the middle. It can be critical to the story and it can be a throwaway line. It didn't really matter.
What was the line now we have to?
Oh, you have to.
There were 4 of them.
There were 4 of them. One of them was
I thought that was Buddha.
I don't actually remember the lines, but one of them was about a person who was going through the woods and found something unexpected in the woods.
So there's no shelf whatever the title is. I thought maybe that
Oh,
was one.
Yes, no, but I'll tell you the title, Tales from Shelf 804. So one of our authors is a librarian, and we got to just joking as we do, we're sitting around joking about things. And the Dewey Decimal System has some identified space for literature. So usually fiction is separate, but the Dewey Decimal System does have a shelf for literature. And so, but this particular shelf, 804, if you look it up, it says that this shelf is unassigned.
Oh,
Oh, that's great. It's
great.
great. I hope you say that at the beginning of the
So,
book. So
yes, we
people know
do.
that.
Yes,
It's
with
great.
the little intro,
It's
right?
really
And so we have claimed the unassigned shelf in the Dewey Decimal
I love
System.
that. That's great.
Pretty fun. Yeah, pretty fun.
So, have you thought of putting your books on audio at all?
So I think two of them are AI narrated, which has gotten a little bit better in the last year or two. So it's not quite the robotics, that you get with some of the other automated readers. So they're a little bit better. They're on they're on Google Play Books audio. So those are there. Again, though, it's not as easy as you think. You have to do a lot of converting, and then you can listen to the whole thing and you can go in and edit auditorily. So sometimes words look the same, like read and read. And so the AI
Right.
doesn't know.
Oh,
And so you have to listen to the whole thing and go in and you can make little changes here and there to help the sound to flow a little better. So there's a couple on audio. I think sometimes I might want to put that effort in, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
if
So-
you go on ACX, link below, ACX, you can partner with somebody who will produce your book. You can either pay them or you can just take 50 for 50 cut. And you can often get if people like your book, the narrators, you can get really famous narrators to do it, and it's completely free.
Yeah,
And
so
you don't have to do
I'm just going to debunk that. You
Uh,
cannot get really famous readers to read your book for free.
I've got
Because-
not like movie stars, but like well-known narrators.
Yes, because but your book is a high profile book. So my books are not popular enough to attract that particular service from people at the moment. So I'll just say, so I've been a little hesitant to pursue that. But I do have,
Oh, you might still find a narrator that's starting out that's really good.
right,
Like your book. I mean, the main thing I think is they like your book, or they just want to get some credits.
right, absolutely. There's that. I did write a movie script for the last yard sale. And so I've shopped that around a little bit with a little bit of recognition, but nobody really excited to pick it up. So, but that's been fun. That was an interesting project.
Well, it's been a delight to talk to you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk to you next time you have another yards or any novel out, or even a collection.
Yeah.
And we always end with the best thing we learned this week. And I usually start. And I had a bunch of things and I didn't put them down. So I'm just going to tell you one of my favorite things of all times.
Oh, the
wow.
all-time favorite thing.
All-time favorite thing. So I'm a scuba diver, and I joined a group here in Spain where I live. And they do a lot of ocean cleanup and rehab. And one of their projects is photographing and classifying what animals are out there. And one of the animals they do a lot of, because there are some out here, are nudibranchs, which are my absolute. Andrea's like, oh my God, please shut up about nudibranchs. She knows I love them so much. First of all, they're sea slugs, which sounds less romantic. are the coolest looking they're colorful. They have this radula, they're carnivorous, they have a radula tongue, and there are these little diadems which look like salt. In fact, if you live in California, at least I know, you've seen this like crusted salt on seaweed. It's actually a whole colony of little animals inside these little homes they make, and they're related to jellyfish. And the nudibranchs go and they suck each individual out of their little homes, and then they take the little stingers and they don't digest them. They move them up through their system to their little, fringes so that they can use them as a defense. And some of them eat things that have photosynthetic shells, and they don't ingest those. They also use them and then photosynthesize. So go nudibranchs. Okay, that's it.
Okay, my favorite thing this week is listening to you talk about them. You're so enthusiastic. I love it. Okay, no, but my favorite thing this week is actually nothing to do with what I normally do. My favorite thing I learned this week was that my friend Avenia Triantafilou won the Shirley Jackson Award for her novelette called 6 Versions of My Brother Found Under a Bridge at Uncanny, and you can go there and read it. But I was so excited for her because she's lovely, and it's just exciting when people get recognized. So that was my best thing.
Oh, that's lovely too, Andrea.
Thank you.
Well,
Of course, listening to you talk about nudibranchs is always fun.
Oh, good. Thank you. Because it's like, I can
You're so
just think,
enthusiastic.
oh, not again.
I know, but they are cute. Marie, anything from you?
well, my little tidbit is a little bit more morose than yours. I was watching a series, and so I'll have to look this up. But they had a storyline about the series takes place in United Kingdom, in the UK, and their storyline was that they were digging up somebody's backyard for other reasons, and they started finding all these skeletons. And the explanation for this discovery is that during the plague, they would have opened up mass graves anywhere and everywhere, and nobody would have known where they were. And so they stumble upon them the same way they find hoards, right? The same way you got metal detectorists out there looking for buried treasure, right? So yeah, so there are random graves all over the place, and I just thought, oh, that's a storyline.
That is a story. Someone can write that, their version of whatever that sparks in them.
Somebody could write a story. Certainly can.
Oh gosh, you're reminding me of this other thing, but I won't.
You'll save it. You'll
I'll
save it.
save
for another
it.
time.
And there will be links to all of Marie's stories, where to find them below, as well as a little link about looking at nudibranch, because of course you'll all want to do that.
You will.
And maybe a link to Andrea's friend's story. I'm not going
Oh,
Oh,
yes,
that's a
please.
great idea.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
And as well, we want to thank Maria Korolov for producing this, and Alex Korolov for editing. We could not do it without you. You are amazing.
We could not. So please like this video if you like it, and leave us comments below, and subscribe. God, I can't say that word today. Subscribe. I find that with it. Subscribe to our channel and hit the notification button so that you won't miss any episodes. And if you want to support our publication and help us publish more original content, support us on our Patreon page. And until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Marie. Thank you.
Bye.